Welcome back,
Welcome back.
everybody, to Nerd News Live. I'm your host, Turner Chambliss, and I'm joined by my guest co-host, Robert Ghost Castner. How's it going, man?
I'm good. This is first time doing news. Like I don't have a news voice. I don't know what it should sound like. That's
I
Robert
don't
Castner with
either.
the news. Here we go.
Yeah, I have no presentation when it comes to news myself, so we're just gonna have some fun tonight. Um, so we have three news stories to talk about. One, as you guys can see, the main topic tonight will be on the tragic passing of Carl Weathers, which we will kind of spend the last, you know, probably 10 or 15 minutes of the show talking just about that, about our favorite memories, our favorite moments, our favorite lines, movies, etc. from Carl Weathers. And he's been in a lot of movies, but we do have some comic book movie news to get to. And we'll start with this one, which comes from our friends at comicbookmovies.com. And it states, I'll bring it up right here. Superman Red Sun was pitched by Matthew Vaughn, and it states right here. Argyle director Matthew Vaughn has helmed several comic movies over the course of his career, including Kick-Ass, Kingsman, and X-Men First Class, but he has yet to dip his toes in the DC movie universe. The filmmaker recently revealed that he would consider taking the helm of the upcoming Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow movie after House of the Dragon star Millie Alcock landed the lead role. But what about the man himself? BroBible.com asked Vaughn if he had any interest in directing one of the DCU Elseworlds movies that DC Studio CEO James Gunn is planning, and it sounds like he definitely could be persuaded to come aboard the adaptation of Mark Millard's Red Sun. He said, I thought Red Sun was one of the most cleverest comic books I've ever read. In the current world we're living in, it certainly becomes a lot more relevant because ignorance causes more issues. And I think that the more we learn about Russia and the Russian history, Vaughn then had the idea of casting our previous Man of Steel and his Argyle star, Henry Cavill, as the Soviet Union Superman. Wow, could you imagine remaking Red Sun with Henry Cavill? That would be an interesting movie. So, interesting thoughts here by Matthew Vaughn. Robert, thoughts on a potential Elseworld story directed by Matthew Vaughn?
I have a couple things. One, I didn't know we were calling it Elseworlds, so that's interesting. I like that as a title for a universe.
Mm.
Interesting idea. When I think about Henry Cavill playing like a Russian Superman, I think about the man from Uncle, and they didn't let him be the Russian guy. They made him do the American accent. So I was
Yeah.
like, that's interesting that they would then try to flip that on its head. Yeah, I kind of thought Matthew Vaughn would sort of steer away after Second Kingsman from comic book stuff, but we
Mhm.
learned he did the King's Man, and then we learned that there's a Kingsman 3 coming, and then there's a Kick-Ass reboot coming, and now
He's
this.
never leaving his world.
No, well, Mark Millar stuff, he'll definitely never leave because that's like his inspiration. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, the idea of James Gunn sort of accumulating that kind of talent, I don't remember. I kind of feel like James Gunn had produced something that Matthew Vaughn had done, or vice versa. They had produced together on like Brightburn or something. I remember them being heavily involved together.
That
And then
makes sense.
I think the news of having Millie Alcock, who was very much on an upward trajectory after that first season of House of the Dragon, people were kind of annoyed that they did the time jump where they moved away from her because they're like, oh, she
I
was so
was
good
too.
at that. Halfway through, we're like, we're never going to get to see her again. We might in flashbacks, but
Mhm.
I think that accumulates together into the idea. Everybody loves the idea of Red Sun. I did no concept of Red Sun until I started listening to John Snepp, rest in peace, when he would talk about that, and they did the documentary about it.
Mhm.
And it's ripe for something like this. So it makes sense. Pitching with Matthew Vaughn makes sense. The people they're looking at makes sense. So I'm not surprised. It just didn't come into my realm of possibility because I thought he would sort of stay in a Marvel situation. But
Mhm.
given that it's James Gunn, why not?
Yeah, so Elseworlds is going to be what their like the Batman movie with Robert Pattinson, the Joker and Joker Folie à Deux. Those will be under Elseworlds
Oh, nice.
banner. Think
Let's-
of Marvel Spotlight right now, like that's pretty much Elseworlds for DC, which does take from the comic books, where in Elseworlds they can do like one-off stories that don't tie into anything, that doesn't mess up the current timeline in the comics universe. So makes sense that they're kind of looking into doing more alternate versions of Superman. I've always said I want a Injustice live action movie where Superman just goes rogue. Like, I think setting that in its own timeline, you could bring back so many other variations of Batman. You could bring in anybody you want as Superman, and it won't tie in anything. And you could have this one like overarching like 3 hour movie where it's this epic Injustice story.
I like that idea. I mean, we saw hints of that in Batman v Superman, but
And
only
in Zack Snyder's
Justice.
Justice League
Yeah. So the
with
idea,
the Joker, I guess the nightmare scenes with Batman and the Joker.
yeah, and Jared Leto talking about reach arounds, which is just wonderful. But yeah, yeah, I think expanding that out would be really cool. And I guess like it's always right for video games. We have the Suicide Squad game that just dropped or
Mhm.
is dropping really soon. But
That's
I
got
think,
some controversy as well.
oh yeah, I was
Yeah,
unaware of the controversy. Interesting, but the idea of just I like where your head is at with that.
yeah. So Red Sun is one that I've always been looking forward to, because they had a, I don't know if it was 2019 or 2020. They had a DCAU movie
Mm.
based around this comic. The animated universe did a Red Sun adaptation. It was perfect. It was really, really good. But a live action one, you can do so many like really cool things with live action. The only thing that might stop me from like being 100% is I don't think you need to bring back Henry Cavill. I think he's done. You're doing this workaround with Warner Brothers. He's in, he's out, he's back in. I think it just it got to a point where he he teased the fans, and Warner Brothers teased the fans so much that they pulled the rug out from under us, and now I don't care to see him back in the role again. I wouldn't mind if he recasted and went somebody else, because that person who's in Red Sun is never going to be in our Superman. So David Cornsweet is fine in Superman Legacy. So you can cast whoever you want, and you know what? Bring back Nick Cage. Nick Cage is Superman in Red Sun. Do it.
Man, you're just bringing in all the Flash stuff, but hopefully doing it in a way that doesn't annoy you with CGI. So Hunter, I did not watch that DCAU thing,
Mhm,
and I haven't read Red Sun. Is the idea? I mean, I know he's obviously he fights for the USSR. Does
mhm.
that put him in a light of being a villain in that, or is it just told from a USSR perspective that he's fighting for the proletariat or whatever?
It it's told by the side of the USSR.
Okay, all
So
right,
in this comic, there's no really like Superman is not a villain. Like, he doesn't kill heroes.
okay,
He's just what we see as Superman, this, you know, justice and peace and stuff. That's what he is for the USSR
okay.
instead of for the USA, pretty much.
Do you think, given the current climate of how we feel about Russia, that they would turn it into a villainy story?
I think with someone like Matthew Vaughn
Yeah.
at the helm, Matthew Vaughn is really good at making anti-heroes
Mhm.
likable. So I think if you do a Red Sun movie, you can make it where maybe Superman has a little bit of an edge to him, like this one does, but he's not going after heroes. He's going after villains and make him kind of an anti-hero in that way.
Okay. Cool, cool. I was just
Yeah,
curious how much real life would bleed into this, even though technically
yeah,
it's Soviet Russia and we don't have Soviet Russia anymore. We just have Russia, Russia.
yeah. So with our current climate, I mean, I'd be interested to see it. I know a
Yeah,
lot of people would be kind of iffy on taking a subject so,
Putin would
you
love
know,
it. He'd love
political and things like that. But Vaughn is someone who will like go straight for something like this. So that really gets me interested in it to see what, if this even happens, what what he would keep from the comics and the animated movie, and what he would change to make it kind of fit for the big screen.
Yeah, I wish I had a better idea. I wish I had my own idea for who I would like to cast as Superman. I don't have anybody who I would trust
Nick
who hasn't
Cage.
already been used. I mean, yeah, it's. I'm trying to think of someone who I would be believable in that with also having a like a Russian accent, and I can't think of anybody at the time. Anybody who would be actually viable and available because everybody I'm thinking of is too old, or not in Hollywood anymore.
What
Because
about the kid from Ragnarok? Have you seen that show on Netflix?
no,
There's a guy. Let me hold on. Let me look up his name real quick because I just thought about this. He had like it because in Ragnarok he has this kind of Norse, like really kind of deep Russian type voice. You can tell behind the surface.
okay.
I'm
How
trying.
about Richie from the Bear? They people keep trying to make him the thing. And I know that would be CGI, but like, what about
Richie.
him?
Who plays
Even
Richie?
even even Moss Bacharach or whatever. Even Bacharach Moss.
That's a good one too.
He played Micro in The Punisher. I always think about that.
Okay.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of up and coming actors that you can look at that would be really the way to go. I think Henry Cavill's because he's doing something with Warhammer 40K. I know that's supposed to be a big franchise movie. He's looking to star in, so that's gonna be another franchise. He's gonna
There's
be
the
big in a lot of movies he wants to do at this point. So
there's another Guy Ritchie movie he's doing, which is also like a spy movie. I just read about it today because they were like, it's the spiritual sequel from The Man from Uncle that we never got.
oh
The people
sweet,
liked it. The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. Yeah, that
that is a mouthful.
it is. Tis a mouthful, but people were like, "Yeah, this is kind of like the Man from Uncle movie we wanted 9 years later." But without a certain problematic individual who
Yeah,
can't ever do movies again. So
yeah, understandably.
yeah, understandably. So
All right,
yeah, he's
so
busy. Is the point?
so if you're ready to move on to our next story,
Mhm.
guys, what do you think about Matthew Vaughn pitching a Midnight Sun adaptation? Let me know in the comments. So let me go ahead and bring up the next news story. I need to go ahead and bring up the share screen again. Boop. Power of Live. Daredevil Born Again. Now, guys, this will have spoilers, potential spoilers. So, if you want to, you can skip this one and then come back. Daredevil Born Again set photos teases a clash with the Kingpin, Mayor's Fisk slogan, and a possible spoiler return. Again, from comicbookmovie.com. It says more photos from the set of Daredevil Born Again have found their way online and are packed full of big moments and fun revelations about the upcoming Disney Plus series. We start with what looks like another tease confrontation, sorry, between Matt Murdock and the Kingpin, and it's hard to say what is happening, but we bet on the point that Wilson Fisk's quest to become New York mayor if he doesn't already hold that role by this point. And I'm not sure if you guys can see that or not, but there are the photos. It looks like there are paparazzis in the background. So it seems like this is a really big, like New York knows a lot about what's going on. So I'm interested to see what way that takes. And as you see right there, Vincent D'Onofrio looks amazing as Kingpin as always.
Slim down, Kingpin.
Dude, he looks terrifying.
Yeah.
And then it says it appears as if Detective Sergeant Brett Mahoney will also make his return after previously appearing in Daredevil, Jessica Jones, and The Punisher. Actor Royce Johnson has hinted at his MCU return, and it seems he is among the actors who survived Daredevil Born Again's creative overhaul. All right, so there you guys can see Vanessa on the door. You've got Brett and Devlin. I think that's what it says right there.
Yeah, it says Devlin.
Okay, so I'm not crazy.
Nope.
And it
That
says, while this shot appears to show Cox just having fun in between takes, it also reveals a closer look at the cap bearing Fisk slogan. He's gone with Fisk can fix it, a hint that the villain has promised to make New York great again by ridding the Big Apple of troublesome vigilantes. As you guys can see, the behind the scenes of Charlie Cox right here, and yeah, pretty much that's it when it comes to the photos. Robert, thoughts on all this background information, all the drama that Daredevil Born Again had? It seems like now they're going. This is pretty much Daredevil season 4 that we needed. I'm glad they decided to go this route.
Yeah, it seems like they cleaned up and they sort of listened. I think it's a lot has to do with sort of Disney's underperformance in 2023.
To say
They're
the
trying to
least.
do everything they can to keep fans aligned. They're like, when we brought, the Marvel Netflix heroes in, the idea was that we wanted to continue their story, not try to do new story unless the new stories were good. And
Mhm.
we've seen, She-Hulk. People like She-Hulk, people didn't like She-Hulk, but we liked seeing Matt
I
Murdock.
thought it was iffy. I like some of the comedy moments, but I like the fourth wall breaking comedy. So
I liked it, fair enough. And then, we have No Way Home, which was amazing. That was the part where
fantastic.
in No Way Home, I clapped when Matt Murdock showed up. I was like,
Same.
this is all I needed. Everything else is BS. I just needed Matt Murdock. And then Echo, which I haven't watched, but I know he's not in it very much.
Echo is very divisive. Me personally, I loved it. I binged it in one day in one sitting.
Mm.
I wish they would have leaned into the TVMA aspect of it a little bit more, but the scenes that were TVMA, they went for it. It was on the level of the Netflix shows where like people were getting their heads blown off, and you would see it. And really great action scenes in Echo. The ending is iffy. I liked it. I know a lot of people will not. Great post credit scene. As you guys can see, I don't know if you want any spoilers on that or not,
I don't know. Whatever.
but
You can do it. It's fine.
but yeah. So spoiler warning for the end of Echo. At the end of Echo, Wilson Fisk escapes, and the post credit scene is him on a plane, and it's he's looking at a news report about the New York mayor race, and he
Mhm.
says, "I got to do something." So that leads to Daredevil Born Again, in which he's going to start running for mayor of New York. Which my theory is that this is all leading to Spider-Man 4 being a Defenders type movie with Spider-Man, Daredevil, and Luke Cage all teaming up to go after Wilson Fisk, who has outlawed vigilantes in New York City.
So it's kind of like the Civil War we didn't get with a little
Yeah,
bit of like
so
Spider-Man the video game.
yep, so it's gonna be in in my um in my world at least, it would be the street level Civil War.
Sweet. I like everything I heard about that. And like we knew about the people who weren't coming back and
Mm,
people were like we don't like them not coming back. We like our side characters and they were like, "Well, okay, we'll fix that part."
mm,
The thing I take the most out of this, I heard it in an interview where they asked Vincent D'Onofrio about how long he would like to play Wilson Fisk and he's like forever. And it seems like Charlie Cox has the same idea.
mm.
So when your two stars are bought into that degree and you feel like you could keep doing stories with them, that makes me hopeful about how they could fit into a larger universe. Like you said, maybe wrapping that up into Spider-Man 4. That will hopefully happen. I like everything I'm hearing. There is a nice allegory, as mentioned in this story, between his mayoral race and the certain um, presidential campaign for
Yeah.
somebody. So that helps. It's too bad that the show's not going to come out this year. So that will make it interesting when it comes out like the next year, and we'll know what happened in the election. So that'll be fun. Uh,
100%.
might be
Can you
precious.
imagine? Can you imagine if this show came out right as the presidential debates were happening.
I think it would be I think that would have been awesome. I think if they didn't get the mired muckety muck of what had happened before, they could have come out and it would have just been like fire with that.
Ugh,
But it's unfortunate we don't get that. So it'll be funny if it's completely wrong with how it lines up with that.
I'm actually glad that it's coming out after the debates and
Mhm.
after the election,
Okay,
because then it gives it time to kind of shed light on whatever America is doing at the time, and it's not feeling like it's hopping on a trend just to hop on a trend.
that's fair. I
But
also
man,
like
oh,
looking at the additional cast list and seeing James Gandolfini's son is in it. And I was like, yeah, let's get more New York guys in the
is
New
he
York
in
show.
it?
It says Michael Gandolfini's one of the additional cast in an undisclosed role that we do not know.
That is so cool.
Yep. I know this many Saints of Newark was a divisive thing, or maybe it was a thing that people didn't like because of how much they revered the Sopranos. But he was not bad as a young version of his
I
dad's.
mean,
So,
that's kind of like Ice Cube's son playing Ice Cube in Straight Outta Compton.
but you
Like
have the memes where like O'Shea Jackson Jr. looks more like Ice Cube than Ice Cube does, so that works.
that that's very true. Dude, Vincent D'Onofrio looks fucking cut in that suit, bro.
He does. I think they also mentioned in the article I looked at where they were talking about him not having to carry the full body weight, and that
Which is
it's helpful for his physical scenes. Like,
yeah,
they
which
maintain.
makes sense.
Yeah, I imagine it's also helpful for finding stunt people who would more
Oh,
match that body
100%.
size than the bigger body size.
100%.
Yeah,
Not gonna lie, I do miss him kind of being this big presence, like actually big presence he was in the Daredevil show. But like, one, yeah, as you said, it's gonna be hard to find fucking stunt casting for Vincent D'Onofrio, who is fucking built like a fridge
yeah,
in that Netflix show.
really
Uh,
was.
so
Very
so
good
yeah, I get that definitely. But man, he is the perfect casting for Kingpin. He's a Kingpin I didn't know I wanted until I saw the Netflix Daredevil show.
It's amazing how that works, right? We thought the same thing a long time ago with Heath Ledger as a Joker. We were like, this is going to be terrible. And it was the best thing ever. Sometimes you just got to trust if good people are making things and good people are casting things, then they know what they're talking about. And that was another one where didn't expect much of it. Here we are.
Yeah. Charlie Cox is a really great Daredevil as well.
He's a great Daredevil. I'd not really known of him. I didn't really watch Stardust or anything, but like
Oh my god,
looking
he
at
was in Stardust.
he's the main guy in Stardust. When you
Yeah.
look at Stardust in comparison to this, it's like night and day to me.
Mhm.
But he had chops. I just wasn't aware of it. And then I
Yeah.
saw him as Daredevil. I was like, that's a really, really good Daredevil. Especially in like comparison to the Daredevils we had. In comparison to Ben Affleck, he's on another level. No
Yeah, I
offense
mean
to Ben
that
Affleck.
that's not hard to do. Sorry, Affleck. I mean that movie was just terrible.
It's a bad movie.
But
Also helps when you have good people writing stuff.
correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't there also a report that said Punisher was supposed to be in this show?
He's listed in this article as well that John Bernthal is back as the Punisher.
Which, if
Also,
that's the case, then yeah, you have to go TV, like full TVMA, like more than you did with Echo.
I think they will, which is funny having like I don't remember if in the course of them readjusting, realigning what they wanted to do with this, do they I imagine they still have the same episode count. So it's like 22 episodes of
No,
no, they downplayed it.
they
They
they've
removed
cut
it.
it, so I'm not sure if it's. I know it's not the full. I think they said 18 episodes at one point. I think now it's down to 12 or 13. I think they
Probably
condensed
better.
it down.
Okay, it's probably better. I just think it'd be funny to have 20 episodes of a mature show. I don't know what that's like because everything that's usually mature
Week
is
to week,
dead.
20 weeks.
That'd be funny. But no, that's good. That's good for quality, I imagine.
Definitely. Anything else you want to bring up on this topic before we get on to our main topic?
No, just justice for Foggy and Karen Page. I'm glad they're in the show again. I I was gonna feel bad that they were gonna be left out in the cold, and I'm glad that they're not gonna be left out in the cold now.
Yeah, which is
Yeah.
is great that they which I froze there a little bit. I'm gonna add this in before we move on.
Mhm.
I think it was really smart of Kevin Feige to be like, okay, let's hire actual showrunners and not movie directors. Let's get an actual show bible for this TV show, and he's treating the TV shows like an actual show and not like an extension of a movie, which you can have great movie directors who don't translate over to TV. You have to have great showrunners first.
It's different keeping track of something that's 12 hours as opposed to something that's 2 hours. It's a
Yes.
completely different skill set, and I think Kevin Feige probably wasn't aware of that when they were like, you know, Disney was like, "We're launching Disney Plus, and we have these shows,
Hmm.
and they gotta connect," but they gotta connect. They were more concerned with how it connected to a cinematic universe and not as concerned with how the show and per episode, especially on a micro level, how they would do qualitatively. And now they're starting to figure that out a bit more with
Hmm.
Echo. I didn't watch What If season 2, but I think that got decent reviews.
That's got really great reviews.
Yeah. Um, and
Did you
you know,
watch Loki season 2?
yes, Loki season 2 was awesome. I
It was
stand by it.
great.
I know people love season 1 and think it's better. I think they're of similar footing.
Mhm.
It's really great. So yeah, I think they figured that part out
I
more.
definitely agree with that. What was one thing I wanted to bring up that I forgot? All right, it'll come to me eventually. But let's
So
move on. Let's move on to our final topic and a bit of some sad news for people of fans of Star Wars, fans of the Rocky franchise. Like this dude is a great actor, and he passed away at 76.
yeah,
Carl Weathers. I don't know if you guys can. Yes, I brought up. Okay, sweet. So I'll read this article and then we'll go into more of the movies that we loved watching Carl Weathers in. So it says actor Carl Weathers, who had popular roles in Rocky, Predator, and Star Wars franchise, has passed away. Per Deadline, it's reported that Carl Weathers has passed away. His passing was confirmed by his family with a statement, and although the specific cause of death was not detailed, it's noted that the actor died in his sleep. Weathers was 76 years old. And then here's the statement right here from his family. The statement reads, he died peacefully in his sleep on Thursday, January 1st, 2024. Carl was an exceptional human being who had lived an extraordinary life. Through his uh, contributions to film, television, the art, and sports, he's left an indelible mark and is recognized worldwide and across generations. He was a beloved father, brother, grandfather, partner, and friend. So, very sad news. Um, I woke up this morning and heard it and was absolutely devastated. When you think of the movies that this guy has been in, and especially TV shows, I love him in Psych. I'm a huge Psych fan, and he was amazing in that. But like as they said, Star Wars, you've got Predator, you've got Rocky, of course. Like so many great franchises and characters that this man has played. It's gonna be a huge loss.
yeah. I mean, I wasn't aware of Carl Weathers before I watched Happy Gilmore and his role as Chuck,
Yes.
and I always thought, him as a comedic guy, and then I went backwards and you know, because that's when I was growing up and movies were becoming more aware in the mid
Mhm.
90s. That's when I grew up. So those things stuck with me because I gravitated toward comedies. But then I learned about the Rocky stuff and Action Jackson before that in the black exploitation era,
Yes.
and
Action
then
Jackson.
Predator, where he's like, it's Arnold, but then you see him do the handshake, and you're like, Carl Weathers. It's like maybe like
Dylan, you
98%.
son of a
You son
bitch.
of a bitch. Well, Dylan, fuck you. It's really bad. And when you do trivia, Predator is involved, so you get to watch that a bit. You're like, man, he's rocking it. And then the Mandalorian comes out, and you're like, oh my god, Carl Weathers is in the Mandalorian, and he's directing episodes of the Mandalorian. He
Mhm.
loves being in the Star Wars universe. He's going to be in this for as long as he wants to be. And then this afternoon, I learned of this, and I was like, and when you have, like older parents and people of this age die, and you're
Mhm.
thinking about your own life and people who are in it of that age, you're like, oh, that sucks. My wife wondered if it was a Chadwick Boseman thing where he was actually sick for a while. We just didn't
Ooh.
know it, and then he died, or if this was a sudden thing, which we don't know because reports haven't come out. But this is a huge hole for people who like movies of a cinematic variety. He was big in the 70s and 80s, and then he managed to parlay that into having a different type of career, more of a comedic career, but it worked out for him. And he was involved in our lives cinematically for 45 years plus. It's
Jesus.
incredible. And he never was really slowing down. When people get older, you can tell they're sort of losing their fastball. It didn't seem like he was
Mhm.
losing his fastball, even in the Mandalorian stuff. He looks older, but he has gravitas to it still, and it sucks. This is a hurtful one. I didn't like reading this for sure.
Yeah.
Um, People always say like people have been dying at these rates for as long as you can remember. It's just we're now more aware of it because of social media. But man, it feels like a lot of people died last year, and
And in
it's not.
2022.
And in 2022, and it's not a great start to 24. And I'm bummed. I'm very bummed.
Yeah. I remember seeing Carl Weathers for the first time in Predator, actually, I
Mhm.
think. So I saw Predator first, and then I got into the Rocky franchise, and I was like, man, his embodiment of Apollo Creed, just the swagger that he had coming down the ring, and you see this fucking chiseled like world champion, and you're like, fuck yeah, like that dude is awesome. And
He's
then you see
28 in Rocky.
he was 28.
He's 28 in
Wow.
Rocky, or 27 probably when they filmed it. But yeah, he's young in that,
Yeah. Dude,
and you
he
don't.
was in great shape though.
I mean, they said it in that article. He played professional football with
Yep.
the Raiders, and in Canada, I think, as well. So like
Mhm.
he he was an athlete, and he was able to parlay that into embodying a physicality. It's a shame. I mean, it's a big emotional stake of Rocky Four, but it's a shame that he didn't want to get killed off. They killed him off, but he would have been great translating into being a mentor for Adonis in the Creed movies, or being like a
Yeah.
guy in connection with Felicia Rashad, just as like another person to mentor him would have been great. Like if Rocky died, and then like Apollo could show up, kind of similar to Rocky 3,
Mhm.
something like that. But we didn't get that because that wasn't in the canon. Would have been great, but yeah,
To be fair though, I think the story of Creed, if you had Apollo in that movie, the overall story wouldn't have worked. Because the whole
no,
idea is that he wanted to show that like he wasn't just living off of his father's legacy that
yeah,
he
they could have
left.
done
Like
something crazy where they thought he was dead, but he wasn't actually.
psych, gotcha.
Yeah, like we thought he was dead. Um, he went off because he was embarrassed by how he got shown up by Drago, and then just sort of became a hermit, but then comes out from retirement when Adonis needs him the most. I'm not saying it would have worked, just saying it was a possibility if they didn't
Sound
kill him off.
sounds a lot like Luke Skywalker in the
Yeah,
sequels.
yes.
He just goes
Could
off
have
in
been.
hiding.
Could have been cranky. He could have been a cranky Apollo. That'd been
He,
funny.
he grabs the boxing gloves, looks at him, chunks him.
Throws it away. It's like, good. No, it's shorts. It would have been the American flag shorts. I'm like, get the hell
Yeah.
out of here. Get the hell out of here.
By the way, I did not realize he was in Eight Crazy Nights with the Adam Sandler animated movie.
Yeah, he is in that too. I forgot about that.
So
And he's
like,
in Little Nicky as Chubbs in Heaven, which is
oh, I forgot about
yeah.
that.
He's teaching Reese Witherspoon about golfing. It's like it's all
It's
in the
all
hips.
in the hips.
It's all in the hips.
Oh man, so many iconic like the fact that Carl Weathers was not only in the Predator franchise, but the Star Wars franchise and the Rocky franchise, like that's three massive franchises, and he was a part of it in one way or the other.
and didn't feel oversaturated in them.
Exactly.
Obviously, he's only in one Predator movie, but still, it feels seamless and timeless
Hmm.
based on when it was and what kind of actor he was. Again, it was just incredible what kind of actor he was in the 70s and 80s and how he was able to parlay that into being a different kind of actor later on. Not everybody can do that, and it looks he made it look effortless, which is great.
Yeah. So, it are there any other movies that you want to bring up that like you remember seeing Carl Weathers in, or like a specific performance that you want to talk about, or just you know,
I'm trying to think beyond the ones we had mentioned because those are the ones I think about the most, more than anything, because those are the ones I've seen the most.
yeah.
But oh yeah, Toy Story 4 is Combat Carls. I forgot about that. It's very small.
Oh, he was in Toy Story 4.
Showing up in that was really kind of something. How about he was a skin in Mortal Kombat. You could be a Dylan skin in Mortal Kombat.
Was
Didn't know
that MK11?
10.
Oh, 10. Oh, that's
Yep.
right, because that one had Predator in it.
Yeah. Those are kind of the big ones. I mean, he
Mhm.
did a lot of early 90s, 80s TV I never watched.
A lot of TV in general, like he was on like Law and Order, he was on Psych, Magnum PI, like a lot of big like TV shows as well. Um, which shows like the caliber of actor that he can go from big blockbuster movies and TV, and he's good in everything he did.
Yeah, he did a lot of, I mean, he did Kung Fu, he did Good Times,
The Shield.
Watt, he did $6 Million Man, did all McCloud, Starsky and Hutch, Barnaby Jones. So he was one of those guys who bounced around a lot, doing one episode spots in TV around the time that he was being popularized as Apollo Creed.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, those are kind of the big things. A lot of these other things I have not seen personally. So, you know, I think being Chubbs is what sort of stands out for me. Just, you know, he could be a mentor to a crazy person who has no idea what it's like to be a golfer and, and make him an indelible part of his life to the point where, he sees him, as you sort of mentioned, like a Luke Skywalker Force ghost at the end watching over him along with Abraham Lincoln and the crocodile who took Chubb's hand that ultimately killed him. So that's what I think about the most. But I think being so oh, I'm sorry. There's another thing. I completely forgot about it. It's Carl Weathers being Carl Weathers in Arrested Development is
I've never
also
seen that show.
oh my
Is it
gosh.
good?
Arrested Development is fantastic. The first 3 seasons are fantastic before they got canceled, and then the Netflix stuff is fine, but it loses its charm because everybody's big stars by then and their schedules are
Mhm.
all screwed up. But Carl Weathers is great because in that he uh, uh, I'm blanking on the guy who plays Tobias. He wants to be an actor, so he tries to he thinks Carl Weathers is running like an actors guild. Carl Weathers isn't running an actors guild. He's just like a broke actor, like telling him all these ways that you can save money by like you get a ham, you can take the ham bone and make a soup out of it.
This
And
sounds like an episode of Community.
it is sort of like yeah, Arrested Development was like Community before that. The Russo brothers worked on Arrested Development before Community.
Oh, that makes sense.
They directed on that stuff. So him for a few episodes being like David Cross was Tobias, being
I love David Cross.
his like mentor but like only doing it to make a bunch of money and giving him acting tips that don't make any sense. And Tobias is a terrible actor. that also, again, his comedic chops were incredible as someone of
Mhm.
that ilk, and that played into it too. So Chubbs and him being himself in Arrested Development are really the ones that resonate with me beyond the common stuff.
Yeah. So for me, like one iconic performance I have to go with is Apollo Creed.
Yeah,
Just cuz like I watched Rocky, the first two Rocky movies when I was younger. So seeing this kind of, as I said, larger than life character he was playing, like coming out with the Uncle Sam hat and the red, white, and blue blazer, and he's just dancing his way to the ring. He's
he
not
inspired a
caring.
whole James Brown song and video. It's
He
incredible.
did
He's in the James
indeed.
Brown "Living in America" video. It's incredible.
Yes.
His arc in Rocky is incredible.
Yes.
He's the big foil. He's the big bombastic
Hmm.
foil to
Larger
Rocky.
than life character that Rocky that's great against our underdog Rocky. You need someone who has this outgoing personality that's like this really like Hollywood bombastic character to go up against this kind of hard nosed, Philly kid in
Working
Rocky,
man.
and it
Yeah.
works so well against each other. And then they become friends, and you realize, oh, like the chemistry that Sly and Carl Weathers had was great. Whether they were, you know, doing the press conferences, having jabs at each other, or they were training and watching tapes with each other. Like so many great moments, especially as the movies go along in the Rocky franchise. His death scene scared the fuck out of me as a kid. It was terrifying. What a great way to make a villain out of Drago.
I mean, I you only heard about, like, for me, people dying in the ring, like, doing
Mm,
sports, but seeing it happen, you're like, "Oh, man, that's, like, real." Like, it's movie, but you could
exactly.
see that happening, but Apollo going from opponent to respectful opponent in 2 when he loses
Mhm,
to his mentor, coach, friend, and then the tragedy of Rocky ostensibly being a huge cause of why Apollo dies.
yeah.
It's such a and then how that wraps into what happens in Creed and how Rocky pays it forward to his son.
Mhm,
It's an incredible arc for someone who's there. I mean, he's obviously the main opponent in Rocky, but we don't really hang out with Apollo that much in Rocky. It's mostly Rocky as we learn what kind of person he is, and then he's his opposite. And even 2, he's not even much in 2. It's really kind of how it cements them being together in 3 when Rocky loses Mickey,
mhm,
that really expands out. You can't believe that they would be friends of that ilk, but it happens. And Stallone and Carl Weathers really played into that really quite well. It's incredible in a boxing movie franchise that you could have that kind of character development.
yeah, 100%. So rest in peace to Carl Weathers. Our thoughts and prayers go out to his family and his friends and everyone who's affected by this. Um, so this is officially the longest episode of Nerd News Live with a whopping 2 episodes in the book.
It's my fault. I pontificate. That's me.
No, no, no. I love having someone to banter with and go back and forth with. Whenever you want to come back on, man, you are more than welcome to come on.
Thank you.
Uh,
Hopefully with much more just positive stories all the way to
yeah,
having to
yeah,
punctuate with something so sad.
yeah, exactly. So Robert, where can people find you online?
I don't do a lot of social media, but mostly on Facebook at Robert Castner. I'm a very big member of the trivia community, so watch Multiplex, watch Ontel, watch TLU. Those are all different places where you can get a bunch of other content, but mostly trivia, and that's what I like to do. So hit me up too. You can just talk to me. I'm cool to talk to anybody on Facebook. Just do it.
Yep, on Facebook. All right, guys, if you did enjoy this episode, hit the like button, subscribe to Nerd Entertainment Network down below. Thank you guys for watching. See you guys soon. Peace.